Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Diet Time is here. That's right, we're talking Family Matters. An episode of Family Matters for some reason on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. Your old pal Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from the windy city of Chicago. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we are dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. Now, this week we're continuing on in our off week of TV terrors by discussing an episode in season 8 of Family Matters. Family Matters. You know, when it got good. But there's only usually one person that I trust that I will help me make sure that I don't create an evil version of myself in ventriloquist dummy form, and that is Gina Radcliffe, but she is unable to join us today. But don't be scared. We're not alone. That's right. We have a special guest. You may know him as an actor, a performer, a seagull impersonator, and of course, the director of such films as Scare Me and Werewolves Within. His latest movie role is in A Wounded Fawn, which is out now on Shudder. He's the one, the only Josh Ruben. How are you doing today, Josh?
I'm very well, man. How are you? It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. I know that you are a huge horror fan. You obviously are a very accomplished horror movie director. I personally really love Scare Me, and I especially loved Werewolves Within, which I showed in my yard on my outdoor big screen. I was so excited for it, and I just was utterly delighted with the end result.
Oh, thank you so much. That was so fun to do. I was so lucky.
Yes. It's such a great cast, and it's so funny, and it just really came together. So when I had the opportunity to reach out to you on your little indie press tour of A Wounded Fawn to talk about something, but I knew I had a limited amount of time to do it. I'm like, how do I get this guy who really knows genre? We have this limited time together. How can we use it best? There's only one thing we can do, and that's watch a middle episode of the 8th season of Family Matters together.
Oh my God.
And I forced you to watch Stevel. So my question to you up front is, had you ever watched a single episode of Family Matters before?
Oh my God. I was obsessed with Family Matters. I still don't know how they did certain things in this episode. I mean, her head is a jack in the box, let alone the wide of little Stevel standing there, right. Just like Chucky style.
Yeah.
They're seriously using some, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's like when you watch Simpsons, Treehouse of Horror. It's like they're going to pull out the stops. They're going to do things you haven't seen before, but it was pretty unsettling episode. I mean, it's just like anytime you see a tiny anything talking, and then also to see Urkel, physically attack the thing was
right.
Pretty cathartic.
That's right. Cathartic, I think, might be the apt word for it. Now, for those in our audience who might not be as familiar with Family Matters, it premiered in 1989 as a spinoff of Perfect Strangers on ABC's vaunted TGIF lineup on Friday nights. It ran for about 8 seasons, and then for its last year, it moved to CBS. It originally focused on the large Winslow household that had 3 generations living under one roof in Chicago. And then halfway through the first season, an annoying next-door neighbor character named Steve Urkel was introduced, and nothing was ever the same again. The side character essentially became the default lead of the show, causing Did I Do That mania to take hold across the nation. And a couple years ago in my household, when my son started watching clips of Family Matters on YouTube, and then would just walk into the room unbeknownst to all of us and say, "Did I do that?" And then run out.
I think we all did. Fun fact, I got to work with, oh God, I hate that I don't know the actor's name off the top of my dome. Help me out. But the actor who plays Steve Urkel, he came into College Humor when I was working there for many a year and did a sketch. and I got to do, he had to, for some reason, I had to put my hand in his mouth. And I remember it was like part of the sketch. Don't ask me. I don't know how or why it happened. But I feel bad for him. And it was just like, what a cool opportunity to work with a legend who I grew up just in my formative years.
Yeah.
We had many interesting sighting at the IAC offices down there by Chelsea Piers.
Nice. Jaleel White has an interesting, after effect after this. I don't think anyone really, I think everyone sort of like wonders what it would be like to be sort of trapped in that role over almost a decade. I can't, like, it's the opportunity of the lifetime because you're making money, you're working as an actor, but also you're only allowed to do one thing unless you're the evil version of yourself, and then you're another character.
Yeah. I wonder if that was just part of the writers' room conversations. Like, I have to do. I mean, he got to do it in a few different ways, but I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen the show.
Yes,
but he got to do that a few different times. Like, play cool Steve, like weird science Steve, and
Urkel, I believe.
Right.
Something French.
Like, you got it. Yeah, you got to
Nutty Professor Rip.
Yeah. Right.
So this particular episode of the show begins with a preamble in the mode of Universal's early monster movies, or maybe if you're a little bit older or younger than that, Marge Simpson from early Treehouse of Horror episodes, with Steve warning viewers in a direct-to-camera address that this Halloween show is, quote, a little scary.
Yeah.
And then he begs two tween kids to turn on the lights.
Yeah. And this is before you see the kind of jagged font. There's just something of, by the way, the episode you sent me, there's a whole making of, which was just so incredible to watch. This is a filmmaker, and a Family Matters fan, like the holes in the back of the couch and everything else. It actually was pretty chilling, but it like, cause it was such a warm and welcoming show. And they would do this with other kind of shows. I remember even watching like Singled Out or Martin as a kid, and they'd have like an episode where like one character would be possessed. And I was so young watching those shows and be like, holy shit, it actually, this is, you're used to seeing these characters in a certain light, all buoyant, making you laugh, welcoming you into welcoming them into your living room. And then before you know it, you're freaked out by some image you never thought would ever be in the likes of any of these comedy shows you'd catch on Fox or otherwise.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to get back to that in just one second because I have a very important question to ask you. But we, of course, must smash cut from this cold open to the regular entrance of Steve Urkel to rapturous applause from an audience who I do not believe was there for the vast majority of this episode. It's just too technically complex to actually have a studio audience inside for it. So I think there's a lot of laugh track being used here. But he walks into a living room that is filled with this family who have been sidelined for his character for now.
And dope Halloween decorations, of course.
Yes, this is an ABC sitcom. They do Halloween up. It seems to be an edict that goes across network wide over multiple decades. Halloween is to be celebrated without budget constraints. Everyone just has to go to the nth degree for Halloween.
That's exactly right. And I guess Christmas too, but Halloween across all these shows, you got to see them really blow it out. Boy, was it an event.
And so they all get to witness Steve's new passion in life, and that is ventriloquism. And I would call out all these characters and their very specific internal, motivators and what their comedic games are. But for the majority of the show, and at least this particular episode, they have one simple job to do, and that is to give the same reaction to Steve and his ventriloquist doll, and that is scorn, outward scorn, and him doing this. And so my question to you, Josh, is how afraid of ventriloquist dummies are you? And if you are not afraid of them, why are you lying to me right now?
Oh, I grew up in the era of I think it was Slappy, the dummy.
Sure,
in R.L. Stein's Goosebumps series. So I think that even more than Chucky, which I saw probably even earlier, unfortunately, really got me. I'd say on a scale of 1 to freaked, I'm like a 7.5. I'm pretty freaked out by, I mean, the concept of one standing in the middle of the room talking. I mean, even Dead Silence, James Wan's kind of earlier, janky kind of, ventriloquist killer dummy film really, really got me. There is something I think now that we're talking, I think it's, I think ventriloquist dummies get me more than I care to admit, maybe more than any quote unquote movie monster.
Yeah, there's something unholy about them. The fact that you're throwing, one person's persona into a hollow object, whether it be Devil Doll or Magic, a movie from 1978.
Oh my God!
The commercial
Hopkins
is scarier than anything in the actual movie. I don't know if you've ever seen the commercial for Magic.
I can't remember it, but I'm definitely going to look it up now. It's a frightening concept, frightening imagery.
My old pal Rodney Asher of Room 237 and the Nightmare fame on Shudder, speaking of the devil,
yes,
has a little featurette on the commercial behind that showed for Magic and how it drove people batty. And I don't know why Rodney is so tied in to these little things that drive people nuts. But once again, he found his mark on that Magic commercial. It is truly nightmare inducing.
Now I have to see it, because everything about Magic as a film, at least from, the 20 some odd minutes I could get through, was pretty unsettling. But now I do have to go back and push my way through. I went back and watched like the quote unquote one scene that is, super unsettling, or the one that, whatever, proves that Hopkins is a masterful actor well many years before he played Lecter. Impressive platform for him, but not a really bearable flick, I have to say. But the imagery, though, I mean, the idea of, is this thing real or not?
I think ventriloquist dummies in tight close-up is a real problem for me.
Yeah, exactly. Let alone one struck by lightning and made sentient.
Yes. And we let's put a pin in lightning, because we're going to get back to it. Now, this is a more personal question, Josh, so I need you to reach deep into your soul. It's sort of inside the actor's studio sort of question here. Now, if an evil puppet version of you was created by God Lightning, what would it wear as it magically murdered your adoptive family?
Probably Costco sweatpants and a Slam Dance t-shirt. So it would just look like a schlub about Echo Park.
Okay, I know that intimately. Sure. Yes.
Yeah. Millennial with a mustache. That was it. I know we're not getting on the face yet, but it would look like a total mess.
Yes. Speaking of mustaches, Eddie Winslow, now nearly a decade into the show, has morphed from a teenager, dreamboat, into what looks like he's ready to play Roger Murtaugh in a North Hollywood black box stage version of Lethal Weapon.
Wow. Okay, I haven't seen a picture yet, but I'm in.
He's got quite a look going on here. His mustache game is strong, but he also looks like he's too old for this shit.
I buy that. Okay, that's fair. He's had quite a life, more one than I have.
Truly. And now that Urkel's like literally living in his room, which I don't know when this happened, but it has apparently happened at this point in the show. What has also happened is that Steve Urkel has had braces on for at least 8 years. That seems a long time to have braces.
It's unhealthy. It's unhealthy, frankly.
You need to get to parts of your teeth to clean them. It seems at this point, they're about as straight as they're ever going to get.
Yeah, it's true. There's not much more you can do. Your smile's your smile. Like, let's just work with what God intended. You know what I mean?
Truly. Well, that's not how Steve Urkel rolls. He likes to play in God's domain, and that's what we're going to see going forward. Because not only does he have the temerity to sleep on top of his bed with his clothes on, which is just, I don't know. It's not like he's come home from work. I don't know what he does for a living.
Right, he didn't have 3 Amstel lights in him. Not that would knock me out, but also don't judge me. You know what I mean?
No, but I would love to see Steve Urkel with 3 Amstel lights in him. I think that would be A whole new level to the show.
I smell a speck. Yeah.
That's right. Reboot. Here we come. Hold on to your hats, Warner Brothers Discovery Plus. It is weird that Steve has a framed photo of Laura, the girl he's been obsessed with over the course of this show, next to his bed. But he also lives in the same house as her.
Yeah, I mean, I think, come on, we've all done weirder. We were all weird when we were teenagers. I mean, I haven't done that weird, but, I don't know. I didn't live with Jennifer Love Hewitt, but I definitely had a collage. You know what I mean?
Well, that's understandable, I guess. Well, let's be bygones, be bygones. But perhaps the most nightmarish component of this entire episode was the amount of times that actors crossed in front of one another. That's not something I'm used to seeing on a stage or in a sitcom, is actors walking in front of people as they are talking. It seems like someone was asleep at the wheel.
I just think maybe someone just really loved Tom Stoppard plays. You know what I mean? I think there was just a real... I have to prove that I've seen Beckett,
they're breaking
form. Someone just really wanted their Mike Nichols moment. It's like, you know what, you know how to really vary this up to show intensity. Have them cross.
This is, I think, the first and only time Tom Stoppard and Mike Nichols have been associated with family member. Yeah. Why do I keep calling it family members? That's not a real sitcom.
It's a Halloween episode, Possession.
So at one point, Steve, upon discovery that his ventriloquist doll is alive, looks straight down the pipe at the camera, which makes me question, because that's the second time this happens. Is Steve aware that he's on a sitcom? Like, does he know that you and I are watching this right now?
I mean, look, we're talking about a show where a puppet comes to life.
Right.
Anything's possible. You know what I mean? Sure. And I'm just going to go with yes, because it's more fun. What the fuck?
Well, speaking of coming to life, this isn't the first time on Kill by Kill that we've broached the subject of God lightning. That is a bolt of lightning that causes something to come to life again. We, of course, famously talked about it when we discussed Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, all those many years ago. So I have to ask, what kind of deity would grant life via wish electricity to a puppet? Like Jason, I get. He's needed on Earth. But this, I don't know.
I think it's just God being bored. It's like that Robin Williams joke about the platypus. It's like, fuck it, put a duckbill on it and a beaver's ass,
Yeah. Make this puppet come alive.
Yeah, exactly.
Ruin this family in Chicago's life for a night. They've had it too good for too long.
Yeah, because I think, God's just been through it. And eventually, you're just going to want to see a wooden dummy drive a car after kids dressed up as Rodman and Jordan.
This is true. One of my favorite parts is watching any puppet drive a car. It's always a conundrum to me. What we get to see the two tweens that are in this program that have grown up over the course of the show are dressed up as Rodman and Jordan for Halloween. What was your favorite Halloween costume growing up?
Any vampire. If I could put vampire teeth in my mouth, those cheapy weepy ones, and the plastic cape from whatever they always had them on the rack at Rite Aid. That was where People, I think, was the name of our drugstore in Potomac, Maryland. Then I was happy. I think one year I was an astronaut, but because I really like the look of the dome style mask or cap helmet. But I think I eventually added vampire teeth. Anytime I could pop in some fangs, I was happy. I think that's why I made Aya Cash wear them for the shortest cutaway ever in my first movie. I was like, I want this.
I think for me, it's a toss-up between the two things that my mom cursed me for wanting to be. One was a werewolf, because that meant adding a lot of hair. That's a lot of fucking work. And the second was I was the Hulk. So that involved painting me green. And I was the skinniest, shortest Hulk on the face of the planet.
I want to see. I mean, that's essentially just as if Bruce Banner never grew. I love it.
Yes, that's right. It's just a skin color change and some ripped clothing.
And that's freaky enough, but could he still be the shit out of people? We don't know, but I think just the skin change enough might be enough to kind of make you back up and go, I think he's sick.
It's more just running away from bullies in Glendale, California.
Yeah, so, there you go.
At a certain point, everyone has to stop accusing Urkel, whether it's Carl or Carl's mom or Carl's wife or anyone else. They all have to stop just accusing Urkel of being mentally unwell and actually look into getting him help, especially now that he lives under their roof, which begs the question, does he pay rent?
Wow, great question. I mean, did he have a job? Like, he wasn't like a scientist or anything. He just like come in and dance and makes it. That's just like asking if Kramer paid rent. Like, what did Kramer do?
Yeah,
was he independently wealthy? Yeah, I don't know. But I'd like to think he was freeloading because he just got to, he was entertaining to have around.
Yes. Well, entertaining to the audience. The Winslows really seem to be suffering.
They couldn't deal. Keep him in the attic.
The psychic weight of having this gentleman in their house 24/7 really seems to be taking a toll once you've reached season 8. But Stevel is on the loose, and he's decided that if Urkel will not go out on the road with him, he will simply get rid of any roadblocks in his way. So Urkel manages to trap Stevel, which we learned his name is, in a trunk with a note that reads "Evil puppet inside. Details later."
He sure did, but little did regular Urkel know that it was made of oak tag and balsam wood, because he very quickly punched out of it. And what a beautiful highlight, by the way. They made him look like Morticia Adams, but a little more cartoony. God, kind of freaky though, legit.
I do wonder if that was external or internal. Did they put lights inside the eyeballs?
Yeah.
Or was that a key light or a very specific pin light into the eyeballs? Either way, kudos to the crew of Family Matters.
My guess is it was applied in post. My guess is that they were clearly just like using the dummy. Although it was interesting to see. There's so many different iterations of it. There's a little kid in a mask. There's the actual ventriloquist dummy, and there's one I think that like he could just pick up and toss in a fridge or whatever.
Right. Yeah. The loose Stevel. But his punching out of that container made me wonder, because this is of course prelude to Eddie being pulled up a chimney by Stevel. What is the proportional strength of Stevel? Because Eddie is built.
I'd say at a scale of John Cena to Hulk with no bulk.
Right.
Probably Batista. I bet that Batista was stuck upside down in your chimney. He could pull a grown man towards him, at least.
A real, unless he has a series of Batman-like pulleys to lasso him and carry him up the chimney. I don't know. He's very capable, this particular evil ventriloquist dummy.
It'd be way better on your back, but he really is. I mean, my God, he's just intimidatingly strong. It's sort of terrifying.
Truly. When Steve asks Stevel, what have you been doing? He says, I've been a very busy dummy, which of course longtime listeners will know was my away message on AOL Messenger. And we learn over the course of this sequence, in which the fate of the rest of the Winslow clan is revealed to us, that Stevel appears to have a touch of Freddy Krueger syndrome, and that he's far too into his own jokes.
But as you should be. I mean, look at him. Right. Like what's not to think funny. By the way, I think that there's like a haunted house in the background in the Winslow's living room that is very Freddy Krueger. That is very like whatever it is, 123 Elm Street. God, I should feel like I should know that that address. 1, 2, 3, 4. Freddy's coming for your Elm Street. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of like Easter eggs in here from the the Burbank production crew. It was just like, it'd be fun. I'm going to sneak in a Hellraiser reference. Like, I bet if you look closely enough, you'll just see shredded Frank.
Oh, that's all they need. At one point, Steve says, turn the crank and find out, which after 3 years of watching Saw movies, just a little safety tip, never turn the crank.
Never turn the crank. You never know if your girl's going to come out bouncing up and down like a little clown box.
Yes. So Steve has put Laura into 3 separate kitchen cabinets. He's put the mom into a giant Jack-in-the-Box. The kids, he's somehow frozen them in time as Jordan and Rodman in the bedroom. People are going down. The grandma, she seems to be safe for now. So thank goodness, because that would be elder abuse. But the most disturbing part here is when Steve starts controlling Carl on the couch. Carl seems to be on top of Steve. Carl's now become the ventriloquist dummy himself, which asks the question, where is Steve's hand? Like, is this mental or physical, or is it spiritual?
Oh, I think it was full on Predator. I mean, before pulling out the head and spine, it just, in another version of the show, in the uncut, he just pulled out Carl's head and spine. I mean, he was really up there. We're not just talking about like not up the butt or not through the back of the head. It's like full on. A hand
spine
went through, and yeah, exactly, spine and head, and then another episode he pull it out.
I like it. I like this idea. So this leads us into a very unconvincing fist fight between Steve and Steve-O. And we've covered a bunch of weird fights on Kill by Kill over the years. Of course, the primary one being Alice and Mrs. Voorhees from the 3rd act of the original Friday the 13th. Mm-hmm. Or you go to Tony Roberts versus a stuffed fish in Amityville 3D. Take your pick. But this one might take the clown, might take the clown or the crown, might take both.
Yeah, I mean, all I could think about was he so obviously just tripped a child and then tore off a dummy's head. It was just like, I mean, come on, you're not fooling anyone. He tripped a kid. I was just thinking, my God, did that kid actually hit his head? Did they care? Was it a kid or a little person? I don't know.
From the behind the scenes, it really does seem to be a little person, but also the youngest little person I've seen working.
Yeah, so, true.
Very baby faced. So I did gasp out loud during the trip scene.
Yeah,
sweeps the leg.
Yeah, truly. That's all I could think about. In fact, I'm still thinking about it. I had to watch it again and again and again. Not giggle, but at least examine it. Wonder if I should write a letter.
Sure.
And then, I thought it was terrifying.
Dear Lorimar Television, a place that no longer exists. It is revealed over the course of this fight, when Urkel wakes up, that this has all been a dream, and he gets up, and Eddie is there, and he's like, hey, the dummy came alive. He was killing you all, and over Urkel's shoulder on a shelf appears to be a bong. And how I want to get high with Steve Urkel. That's got to be interesting.
Yeah, but also it's like, can you imagine how much talk? Like, I'm like a quiet stoner.
Sure.
I'm not even a stoner, but when I get high, I don't love to chat. Mm-hmm. So I would probably start getting freaked out by how chatty he'd inevitably get. That's just all I can think about. But when I think of that question, it's like, my God,
it's a lot of mixed patterns to be looking at for a really long period of time.
Yeah.
And then there's sort of the VPL of his pants situation, which has to be uncomfortable after a while. That just his inside seam really has to chafe over the years because it's really rubbing up in there.
More than that, I just think like, how low is that sweater going? You know what I mean? It's just like, what are you just, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
It's tough.
The cops are right.
But we are fooled. This is a dream within a dream. And Eddie is going to apparently put a blender through Steve's eyes, which I would love to see somebody put a hand mixer through somebody's face in a movie. So if you're doing a horror movie coming up, I think you should lift that idea and not credit Family Matters at all.
I think so too. Or like, man, it just makes me wish that Family Matters at least attempted to use the bread slicer kill in the Fear Street movie, but it might have been a bit much for the censors.
And not only is it a dream within a dream, it's a dream within a dream within a dream, because he wakes up from that as well. Calls out that it was a false ending, which I think is just a writer's room giving up and just they want to go to a bar. That's what it feels like to me.
And why wouldn't you?
You're right, true. And this is where Steve begins. I guess Eddie reminds him of the other scary dreams he's had at other holidays, including a Thanksgiving one, where Steve was, quote unquote, stuffed by a turkey. And that sounds a lot sexier than this episode.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that whatsoever. I don't disagree with that at all. Who wouldn't want to be? And who doesn't think about it?
But Steve is obviously thinking about it because he, quote, says, next Thanksgiving, I'm wearing steel pants. So he's been thinking about this a lot. And now we all get to think about it. And of course, that brings this episode of Family Matters to a close. But before we go and stop talking about it, we have to choose our own death venture. And that's where we decide of the deaths portrayed in this episode. If you were forced to die that way, which one would you choose and why? Up for bid this time we have trapped in a chimney, trapped in a wall-sized poster of either Jordan or Rodman, or both, cut into 3 pieces and trapped inside kitchen cabinets, turned into a jack-in-the-box with just your head living, used as a human ventriloquist dummy, as Josh has noted, possibly having your spine violated so that you can talk, and of course, a hand mixer to the face. And Josh, you're our guest, so that means you get to go first.
Wow. I think I'll go with Rodman Jordan, just kind of stuck in a perpetual kind of tete-a-tete, but also a great pose and looking good for the rest of my life.
Their prime. I mean, they look fantastic.
Yeah. Normally I go with a gorier option, but I think that one would just be, just give me, I get to live vicariously through my sportier dreams, for just a wink in time.
Yes. I'm not going to get trapped inside a chimney. That has too many nightmarish possibilities. And I don't like the idea of my head being trapped inside of a box. So I think I'm just going to go for hand mixer to the face, because once that goes through your eye sockets, it's pretty much over.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty Lee Winnell. Yeah, that's pretty James Wan of a way to go. Although I guess you'd have to play quite a game to get to that point. But
true.
I think it would take a minute. You'd probably get that inevitable grinding stop because it would hit some stuff.
Sure.
Once it permeates your eye sockets, it's maybe then it'd start up again. Just depends on how powerful the battery is.
But the last thing you get to see is Eddie at his dreamiest. I mean, those shoulders are very broad.
That's true. It's a very Dahmer kind of way to go. You know what I mean? It's handsome, but it's like, do we want this? You know what I mean?
Well, speaking of serial killers, because we often are, let us talk ever so briefly, but extensively as possible, about your new film, in which this time you're a performer in, called The Wounded Fawn. It's out right now on Shudder, as so many great things are. What drew you to the project, and tell our audience a little bit about it and whet their appetites.
Sure. Well, the shortest pitch is it's essentially the tale of Patrick Bateman taking a girl to the Evil Dead cabin and then being terrorized by the Greek goddesses of vengeance for his evil deeds. And that's essentially why when Travis Stevens, the co-writer director, sent me the script, I just had to do it. It was such a dream role. I got to play terrorizer and terrorized. I got to intimidate and be chased. There's the feminist horror film of it all, and it was fun to play the punching bag in that context. Just so fun to do. And then all the Giallo and Raimi homage, and Greek mythology, sure, but art world homage as well. I think the words I used was, I have to do this. This is genius. When do we start? And I still quite can't believe that he thought, of all people, that I would be I don't know if I was the first swing, but a swing to play this part, to lead a film. I don't know if I would necessarily be the first swing to play a part of a serial killer, or in many films, or any kind of killer, any kind of person. But I'm glad he did. And then that's not even including the 16 millimeter of it all. You look at this thing, it's like, shit, the film is an art piece in and of itself.
Yes. I think the aesthetics are pretty undeniable in it.
Yeah.
And, he definitely has an eye for that sort of thing. But I think this is where his methods meet the madness of the material, and it really comes together. And I think the most satisfying way from his work. And I think obviously it's also a bit of an actor's piece, which is something you excelled in after Scare Me in particular, where it's not like we're talking about a cast of thousands here. If you don't like who you're watching, you're not going to continue on with it. And I think you got both of you leap off the screen here as much as you did in Scare Me.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for saying that. Yeah. I agree. I mean, I can't just speak to my own performance. I'm pretty hard on myself, but I've grown to enjoy it. But yeah, I don't envy the process for any filmmaker putting their chips on an actor they haven't worked with before. I've done it. You kind of just have to do your best to gut check and look at their work and maybe ask a few people, is this person cool or not? I'm thrilled he took the chance on me. And that people are responding, going like, oh shit, this guy played a pretty creepy fucker. Like, I didn't know he had it in him. He did a little bit scare me, but this is okay. This is like an Anton Chigurh moment. This is this is unexpected. So if I can have my 1 hour photo, Robin Williams moment, as it were, someone who often is known to do comedy on, episodes of Dropout on TikTok or whatnot, or Game Changer, then yeah, so be it. I love that comedy fans will stumble upon or see the horror shit and ideally be blown away and go, whoa, you can't quite pin this guy down. Now what's he going to do?
Well, I think, and we said this before, but like comedy and horror are very compatible because you're trying to elicit a reaction in the moment. A scare and a laugh are both the unexpected. They just go in different directions. They have a lot in common, which is why I think they cross over well when you understand the tone of whatever piece you're working on.
I agree. Yeah, I totally agree. I was talking earlier, so the past few days, just so impressed for Fawn and talking about comedy and horror and why us comics kind of push that well. And there's something about how we're just boundary pushers, from Jordan Peele even to Krasinski and Zach Kreger most recently. Yeah. We're all boundary pushing personalities, depending on despite the different scale of movies and projects we're putting out. There's just something about how we like to push and prod and poke and put a mirror to the social commentary of it all. Where we can just prod a little bit further, or maybe tune up the discomfort a little bit more, make a squirmy observation that really makes you go, oh shit, I know that guy, or I know that moment. Yeah. And the skewering is a cathartic thing to be able to do and translate in film.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to to talk with us about this incredibly silly episode of Family Matters. Hopefully, sometime in the future we can have you on to talk about an actual scary movie. Maybe something that will shine a light on something a little underseen. I know you're a fan of Bad Moon, and
yes.
Yes, I would love to talk about Bad Moon with somebody who enjoys that. It's a little underseen, but I think well worth everyone's time.
Criminally underseen, and actually, the Bad Moon aspect ratio I gave to my cinematographer, and I want to, for Werewolves Within, match and homage the anamorphic aspect ratio and this sort of color saturation to Bad Moon. I want it to look this beautiful. I think it is a beautiful looking movie. Of course, it has its hang-ups, but I love finding a bad Mooney buddy. I'm very happy to have found you. as us few fans are called in the industry.
As everyone refers to us as. Well, thank you so much for your time. And everyone, please go see or look up Shudder, a service that we talk about all the time here. A Wounded Fawn and Scare Me as well is also on there. Both great things for you to check out. Don't worry, folks. The body count will continue next week. It's a special occasion. It's Christmas in Amityville. We will be talking about the Amityville horror in our new tradition. It's our new Saws Giving, where every year for Christmas we will be talking about an Amityville horror movie. So you've got that to look forward to. Don't worry, folks. The body count will continue for myself and for Josh. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Get Shudder.